Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday morning. It is getting late already. It's 10 to 11. Darryl and some of the kids are at church for the morning. The twins are home with me, and we have got some cleaning done. I got the benches done. The boys have done some clothing for me. Got some clothing off the line and sorted clothing and things like that. They're on their iPads at the moment, taking a break. So I need to do a chat video. We haven't done one for a while. So that's going to be part of what today is. Going to be discussing some of the changes and how I'm figuring things out. And obviously videos have not been working fantastically well. I'm only getting sort of 2 a week, and some of them not some greatest quality for what I like. But we're getting there. It's slow. It's only been a couple of weeks of school being back and starting the new job, and things are still in a little bit of upheaval. I do want to get something cooked today. I'm going to do another big batch of English muffins. So cutting the English muffins in half and freezing them worked really well for the kids to use them. They've had them open face with some pizza toppings on them, grilled in the oven for lunches and stuff, which works really well. But I'm also thinking that if I pull one out in the morning and stick it in my bag to take for lunch, by the time I have lunch, if I put ham and cheese or whatever on them in a sandwich toaster, they would work really well too. I don't make a lot of loaf bread, so toasted sandwiches with like pieces of bread, it's not really... Making your own loaf bread just isn't the same as bread that you buy from a store. It's wonderful when you eat it the same day, and especially if it's warm and you know, that sort of thing. But give it a day or two and the texture isn't the same, and you can't cut it as thin no matter what you're using to cut it. And I'm not a huge fan of loaf bread. I much prefer things that don't require cutting. So like if you're making hamburger buns or you're making the baguettes or whatever, they can be individuals that are sealed, they haven't been sliced open, and therefore the texture doesn't change as much, if that makes sense. So I don't make a lot of loaf bread. Sandwich bread, I just don't find it particularly great. I do love a good artisan sourdough loaf, and I am going to try to get back to that as it cools down a little bit. I might try the artisan bread and 5. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but when the kids were small, so we're talking like 14 years ago, a little bit less than that, maybe 12 years ago, I used to make this artisan bread and 5, and there's a couple of books. I'll try and link one, an Amazon one, because it's a great book. I own the ebook because I don't own many physical books, but you basically make up a big tub of dough that will make like 5 different loaves, and you're using a really low amount of yeast, and it sits in the fridge. And so over a week, all you do is you break off a 450 gram, 1 pound size ball of it, and you shape it and let it proof, and then you bake it. And it's similar to sourdough in that it's long fermented, it's yeast based, not it's a commercial yeast base, not a wild yeast base, but it has the same sort of properties. It's a heavier, wetter, denser sourdough style dipping bread, single toast with topped, not as a sandwich. I very much like sourdough as like an open grill or things like that. I very rarely will put 2 pieces of sourdough together to eat as a sandwich. It's just not, you don't need that much bread. Like it's a heavier bread, a slightly wetter bread, a more toothsome and filling bread. So you only really need that 1 piece with a topping on it, and that's how I like it, or open face with eggs and stuff like that. So I do very much miss my sourdough loaves. I'll put a couple of pictures in here. I used to make them all the time. My starter, I have no idea if I have any starter left in the fridge or the freezer or anywhere, because it's been a long time, and the temperatures here just don't lend particularly well. There's not a lot of consistency. It's either really hot, or then when it gets into winter it's too cold, and because we run fires inside, there's a fluctuation of temperature inside with the fires as well, and we still get down to sort of 5 degrees by morning, because that's when we stoke the fire before we go to bed. But the way our living space is, it's not particularly well sealed, it's not particularly well insulated, so by first thing in the morning it's 5 degrees ish inside the house, which is fine. We all wear flannel pajamas and have good quality blankets and that sort of thing, so we don't have a problem with it until you get up, of course, until you get out of bed, and then we start the fire back up. But because it means that the temperature isn't maintained in a way for overnight proofing to go fantastically either, sourdough is a challenge in our environment, and I mastered it. I've got videos on how we managed to make it work with the flow of the family and the weather and everything else, and I used to do it constantly. But I fell out of the habit and I'm finding it difficult to get back into it. And I've fallen back on just using yeasted stuff because it's just so easy. And honestly, as much as I love sourdough, as in I love the texture of it and the flavour of it and all that sort of thing, you can mimic that similarly with long fermented commercial yeast. And the health benefits as such of sourdough really aren't significant enough to make it something that's, you know, worth massive amounts of extra effort, in my opinion. It's still bread, it's still wheat, it's still dough, it's still carb heavy, it's still a yeast, it's just a wild yeast instead of a commercial, like, yeah. So anyway, each to their own on their opinions on how much different sourdough varies from a commercially risen dough. But for me, the difference between them is just not enough to create heartache in trying to make sure that I'm doing sourdough. Anyway, there's our first squirrel of the day. So I am going to mix up some commercially yeast risen English muffins, and I have made them sourdough and they are wonderful. But it also requires forward planning and all that sort of thing. I do need to make some yogurt actually. So when I make the protein pancake bake, I use 400 grams of Greek yogurt, and I buy a really big tub of Greek yogurt at Costco when I do my shop. And then once that runs out, I make my own yogurt, but that's really good for initial. And sometimes it lasts a couple of weeks, which it has this time because we're only, 2 weeks off from shopping and we're going 6 weekly. So, I used all but the very last scrapings of that tub the other day and left the scrapings in the bottom so I can start a new batch of yogurt with that. So I do need to do that as well so that we have some yogurt. I think we're out of granola and stuff, but they haven't been eating that very much because I haven't been making yogurt, and they won't eat it with the Greek yogurt because that's not, you know. I was thinking that I might try them again on some chia pudding actually, because it'd be really nice to boost the fibre content a little bit in those couple of weeks where we don't have as much fresh fruit. They didn't like it previously, but that was years ago. So it might be worth trying to do. I might do like an overnight oats with chia seeds, so there's a blend of the two and blend it all up. And they really liked the overnight oats so long as I made them nice and sweet and stuff, which is fine. You got to cater to what they are going to eat. Anyway, thinking out loud. I also have a LetPot to show you. I got sent it. I'm going to grab it actually and show you now. I'm not going to set it up right this minute, but I want to show it to you because it looks awesome. And I got all those super cubes and the 2 generic ones to try out as well. I'm not going to do that today because I need to cook up some batches of stuff, and maybe I'll put that off until I get the half a cow, because there'll be a bunch of different bits and pieces to cook up that I can then freeze in the super cubes for meals for myself for work. But bear with me. So the 3 super cube things that I bought, I got all 3 of them with rigid lids. I'll have to look them up on Amazon to share which brands these were. These don't have a brand written on them. The Super Cube branded ones, the orange ones, and a blue set, also from Amazon. So Oswin, these ones are branded. These ones don't have a name on them. Very similar looking, these two, both with rigid lids. So we're going to give them a go, but as I said, not today. Super Cube and those ones all sorted to give a go. And then this was sent to me, which I'm really excited about, pulling out and setting up on my bench to have a look at. Very happy to give this a go. So we will unbox this and put it together on this video as well. I want to get this dough sorted for the English muffins first though, because it's getting late. So let's get the dough sorted and then we will open this up. All right, we're just going to mix up a normal batch. The recipe for this is on the website, I'm pretty sure. I normally use a 400 gram tin of coconut cream, but I've got this UHT milk that needs using. So I'm just going to use this, though I may do a second batch, we'll see. 400 grams of milk. Now, I just warmed the kettle very slightly because this has come out of the fridge. So we want 400 grams of water. So we want 800 grams of liquid all up. So that water is just slightly warmed. We want about 40 grams of sugar, and we want about 20 grams of yeast. Oops, I picked up salt. Same sort of thing. 20 grams of salt, 20 grams of yeast. To add about 80 grams of olive oil, butter, ghee, whatever you want to use. And then we're going to add 1100 grams of baker's flour, bread flour, whatever you want to call it. I did notice that the Kegland buckets are back in stock, so I may have to order some of them to be delivered to Mum's for when I am down there. Give those a go. From everything I've heard, they're much easier to open than these blue barrels. So these blue barrels will still be used for stuff that I don't go into every day, but will mean that I can use those for the less regularly accessed stuff and use the Kegland ones for the more regularly accessed stuff. That's the theory anyway. All right, so let's get this on the KitchenAid. It makes about 200 grams of dough all up. 200 grams, 2 kilos of dough, 2,000 grams of dough. So we can make, it depends on what size you want to do your English muffins. Sometimes I do them anywhere from 75-ish through to 90. So say we're doing 75 grams. What's that? My brain is not braining at the moment. 150 per 369. So 2, 4, 6. So at about 75 grams ish, we get about 26. At about 90 grams, we get about 22. So I think I do normally make 2 batches because we can go through almost 1 batch while they're fresh between the 7 of us in the first day and a half sort of thing, and then the other half will go in the freezer. So I probably will make a second batch, so you don't need to see me that. So I'm going to get this all together, get it in a container, and throw everything else in for a second batch. Alrighty, both lots of dough are now proofing. Now we need to make some yogurt, as I said. So I've got the very end of a Greek yogurt tub here, and all I'm going to do is use this as the starter for a fresh batch of yogurt. So I'm just going to scrape all the yogurt that's left in here. You want about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of yogurt. So this was plenty, and it was just what was left after making the last pancake bake. So we've got the end of that yogurt. We are going to put in, so we don't need to put any culture in there because that's the culture. We're going to put about 100 grams of maple syrup. We have found that the kids, to eat it straight, if I'm using it purely for the pancake bake, it doesn't need to be sweetened at all. But I have found that if the kids want to eat it as breakfast, it definitely needs to be sweetened. And needs to be sweetened preemptively. Like they do sweeten it by adding stuff to it, but it's just not the same. A little bit of vanilla to get those nice vanilla flecks through it as well. You can use, I have used the monk fruit drops and stuff to sweeten it rather than maple syrup. I just happen to have maple syrup there, so I grabbed that. We want milk powder. Now we're going to do around about 200-ish grams. I have found the kids prefer it thicker than thinner if they're going to eat it again. So I use more than I used to. The calcium chloride drops help to thicken this up as well, but I don't have any at the moment. I do need to do a Green Living Australia order because I'm out of the calcium powder for the low sugar pectin as well. So I will grab some calcium drops as well as the methylester pectin add-in thing as well. So we're going to add 200 grams of milk powder. And then we add milk to the end. So I used a touch of this milk for that second batch of English muffins, knowing that it's a 2-litre container, but once you add in the other add-ins that you add in, you don't actually need 2 litres of milk. Alright, start giving this a little bit of a blend with the spatula, and then I'll use the whisk, though this whisk might be a bit short. Blending it in a bowl with immersion blender works really well too, but you have to sanitize. So I've sanitized this yogurt maker thing with some Castile soap and warm water and stuff, because if there's anything in it, then when you make yogurt, it will cause the yogurt to fail. So you want anything you're using to be well sanitized. So if you're going to blend it in something before pouring it in this, it needs to be sanitized as well. And I just don't have anything at the moment that's easy to do that with. So you may end up with a couple of lumps of milk powder if you cannot get it all whisked in. Alright, I'm just going to top up with the rest of the milk, and then we are going to put it in the yogurt maker. So this, got a little too vigorous. This is a Louvel yogurt maker, same brand as my meat grinder. I'm gonna have to clean up a bit. I very much like it. You can use jars in it rather than the 2-litre jar. Both have their pros and cons. It does a warm water bath, so it doesn't use huge amounts of power. I have used the thermos style ones. The Green Living Australia sells a really inexpensive plastic thermos style one, and they're great when your weather is consistent, but they don't work so well in the middle of summer or in the middle of winter here because they just can't maintain that temperature accurately, whereas this one really does. So it was a little bit more expensive. It uses a little bit more power, though not very much, but it's well worth it to get consistent results every time. So I have a affiliate link in the description for Louvel for where I do them, because I have the meat mincer as well, but I very much like this yogurt maker. I'll pull the rest of it down in a minute because I need to give it a wash anyway, and show you. So I'm going to find the lid for this and we'll get that sorted. All right, this is the yogurt maker, digital yogurt maker. So the jar goes in here, and then you top the water up to the fill line. I go between the min and the max line, just like that. The line's on the back. So you've got gentle heat from underneath and a water bath to do it. Then you just place your lid on top, which I did clean, even if it doesn't look like it. Dust and all that. And then, I must have missed the rim, because it sits like this while it's closed, catches stuff. Anyway, we just give it a sanitize on the inside, the whole thing, with some eucalyptus castile is what I tend to use to make sure that there's nothing there. So this is on, this is ready. I'll plug it in, I'll turn it on for 8 to 10 hours at the 37 degrees, and then it'll go in the fridge and it'll be ready once it's chilled. Alright, my dough is well and truly doubled, so we're going to do our English muffins. Now, I like to just shape them into rounds and use them like that, rather than rolling it out and cutting it and then re-rolling it and stuff. And I also make it just in my cast iron pans on the stovetop, though I did see there's these really cool English muffin pans that have a top and a bottom to them and rings in the middle. They're awesome. Very expensive though. But what I saw was someone sent me a link, thank you to whoever that was, I can't remember off the top of my head, for using a baking tray, but basically just the same baking tray top and bottom to create that top and bottom of the English muffins. So because I have multiple of these, I'm going to give it a go. I have another pack of 3 of these in my Amazon cart. They're the next purchase once I have the money to do it. So then I'll have 6 of them, which will work really well. But for the moment, we'll try one in this and then one the same way I normally do. More multiples, whatever we need to do. So the plan is to put them on here with a bit of semolina and then put the other pan on top, and then when they cook they have the flat from both pans showing, so we'll see. But all we need to do in the meantime is just get this shaped out into rounds so that we can get things moving anyway. So all I tend to do is take some out initially. Just take a chunk of dough out so that we're not drying out more than we need. I'm going to do 90 grams, which is this sort of a size, and we're just going to gently create some balls bit of semolina to help. It gives it a crispy surface wherever it bakes and helps with the hands. And then we're just going to gently flatten them out like that and place them. And I'm just going to keep on going. 90 gram balls, same process. Like that. All right, this tray is proofed. The oven's been preheating, so I'm going to give this a go in the oven, and then we're going to do the rest on the stovetop. So the plan is to put the baking paper on top, and then the other tray over that, and theoretically it'll cook both sides to a flat point, because though I reckon that's too high, but we're going to give it a go. Anyway, we're going to throw that in the oven and see how it works.
Give it a whirl.
All right, so the ones we're doing on the stovetop, we're using trays as lids. They go in for about 4 to 6 minutes, and then they get flipped. We have got the heat a little bit uneven in these ones. And then the lid goes back on. Square trays, these just work the best. So 4 to 6 minutes on each side to cook through. I'm giving the ones in the oven 15 minutes, and then I'll check them. Thank you. All right, so the pan on top of the pan is not working real well, and I think that's because these pans are just a little too high-sided. So it's not getting any contact on the other side, and we're not getting any browning. I think I'm going to stick these in the pan. Not happy with the idea of that. Good in theory, hard to maneuver and stuff, so pans are just as easy. All right, so we had lunch. We had English muffins with smoked pork for lunch, which was really nice. And we got plenty of English muffins to be put away. And now let's get my new LetPot out. So this is the box of what we're working with. All the plastic pieces. We've got the light on the stand. The LED lighting. We've got some bits of plastic. Let me tilt it down a bit more. Bits of tape holding bits and pieces in place. I assume, oh, there's the book. Let me get this off and then I'll pull the book out. Alright, so welcome to the garden, letpot.com, so we can always go to the website, and then we've got bits in here. So we have support rods, some sponges for starting the seeds in, basket kit for germination in the thing. We've got some shade covers. We've got, this must be the stand for the light, so there's a power on there, so I'm guessing this slides in there like that, so that's pretty cool with the power there. USB on the end here is a USB, so that must plug into the, oops, here somewhere. We will investigate where that goes. On the light, sorry, that's the cover, so it must go, there it is, so there's USB there, so this must just click straight in like that. Look at that, perfect. So then this can extend up and down as needed, so we can get it out of the way for the moment. We'll keep looking. We have our plant food, so we have an A and a B, which is normal for hydroponics. I have some of my own stuff as well. Power cable and a spare. Not real sure what that one is. And we also have in the bottom here, there's another bit of tape on something and another power cable. So I'm guessing that this probably plugs into the back here, and then that gets powered, and that looks like an aerator. Looks like an air bubbler for the water that's in the bottom, which is cool because oxygenation of the water underneath benefits the plants. So let's have a look. We have these stickers. I'm not entirely sure what these stickers are for. Little advertising book with some QR codes in it and a instruction booklet. There's a pump jack and a power jack in the back of there. Water indicator is this, which is kind of neat, this little pop-up thing that I saw before. I wonder where this cord goes to be for best. I'll have a look at that. But this little indicator here on the side will float when there's plenty of water and drop when there isn't, which is a really good way to be able to see without having to open it up how much water is in there. Now it looks like this little basket is for underneath that float, maybe to stop any roots from interfering. So that just seems to slot in there like that to keep that. See, the float sits at the bottom or climbs. Oh, so that makes sense. So that one's done. And then, so apparently the stickers can be used for block light for germination. So there's a small dot in the middle of these stickers, so you can actually place them over your net cups. So you got a net cup, you can put a sticker over the net cup that helps with germination, and then you have little hoods for keeping the moisture in as well. So where are we? Little germination domes, so we've got domes as well, so it's very cool. Alrighty, so let's mix up some nutrients and get the tank filled, and then we will decide what we're doing. So we have all these caps. There's 6 caps, so that when we plant it out, you got 6 caps. Now this cord doesn't seem to have anywhere it goes. Does it just slot in the side there? There is sort of an edge bit there, and then does this, oh yeah, so it goes over there's a little gap at the back here, little cutout, and that's where that cord goes, so that's fine. And then there was a little, this one, that is where you put your water. So it's got a little pinch grip to lift it up and down, and there's a max fill line there. So that works quite well because all these will be covered normally. So we would cover what we're not planting. So if there's one that we want empty, we can just put a cover on there and it stays empty. And again, imagine that these support rods can go in those little holes. Yeah. So you can put the support rods in the edges if it's something that you need support growing. I'm looking at doing mostly greens in this, lettuce, spinach, that kind of thing. So support rods aren't going to be as big a deal, but it's handy. So, and there's tags, and it looks like there's little rectangle spots too. It's a lot of, little nifty little things that have been thought about, because we've got these little tags, which are pretty standard. You can get them most places. And there's a little, look at that, little square divot scattered around that you can fit the things in. That's very cool. All right, so that's it unboxed. What I'm going to do is I'll get it all going. Once I get it all going, I'll show you it all filled, and then over the next few weeks I'm going to keep you updated with trying to get some lettuce and stuff going. Some nice greens to be used is the idea, and hopefully we have some success. Alright, so I filled the base with 5 litres of water with 25 mils each of the nutrient solution. Now I'm putting the sponges, which are a bit like a cocoa core, so they're going to expand in the water into the holes. I like to let them expand and get moist before I try and put seeds in them, because I find that that is better for the seeds. So we're going to put these in, and we'll probably do all of them, and that way if any seeds fail, it's not as big a deal. We can just shift them around if need be. So we'll get all these in and then I'll go and find some seeds. I just found this and I assume it's a water, it says it's called a water indicator. I didn't see it in the list, but it's got the measurements on there of how much water is in the, with the little float. So that's pretty cool too. So it tells me approximately how much water is left in there, not just, you know, you can tell basically by where the level is sitting, but anyway. So yes, we've got all of these. We can let all these moisten up. And then we'll keep on going. Alright, we're going to go super simple. I have some spring onion, bunching onions, some little gem cos, some perpetual spinach, and some oak leaf lettuce. So we're going to go those 4, all easy grow, you know, should work. And I can always plant, so the spring onions I can always plant out afterwards. This will be good for germinating them. So the spring onions, I'm going to put, say, 3 seeds in each one. So we're just going to drop them in the little holes like that, and I'm going to put them in this first row. Can always shift them around if I want to. We might do 4 of one lettuce, 4 of the other lettuce, and just try perpetual spinach in the middle and see how we go. Silver beet in the middle. Now, you can use the stickers for no sun germination. I'm not overly worried about that. I don't generally do that. But the little domes are a great idea because it keeps them really nice and hydrated. Stops the tops of them drying out. So we will put these little domes over the top until we see the first signs of germination. And then we will remove them because we don't want the leaves to rot or the seedling to rot either. And then let's plug this in and just have a look at it with the light on and everything. And yes, I'm going to set it up. I'm going to figure out where I want to set it up so that I can show it to you every couple of days when I film and show you what's going on with it, because it's kind of exciting. This is not where it's going to live, but we're going to have a look at it. Oh, it's on the light. There you go. So there's a power button up on the top here. On the top panel, there's a few buttons. We've got, my eyesight is quite bad. We've got, I'm going to have to use my torch to be able to read that. Okay, so we've got a power, we've got a vegetable/flower button, a brightness, and a pump/Wi-Fi button. So, power on off. If you haven't set the light on time via the app, the LED light will turn on for 16 hours and then automatically turn off for 8 hours after the button is pressed, cycling every 24 hours. So we can sort that with the app. The switching between veggies and herbs or flowers and fruit, different light modes, switching between low and high brightness, low brightness for germination. There we go. We only need a low for that. Once the plant's grown 2 to 3, you go high. Yep. Wi-Fi. Press and hold this button for 3 seconds to reset the device to factory settings and enter Wi-Fi pairing. Pump. Single press the button turns the pump on or off. The pump operates automatically for 30 minutes and then rests for 30 minutes each time the device is powered on. So it says solid button light means the pump is working. So apparently the pump is currently working. Flashing button light indicates the pump is resting. Button light off indicates the pump is off. So I can feel the vibrations. So the pump must be aerating in there. So yeah, that's cool. All right, so let's get the app. All right, so I've been working on getting the app sorted, and you can actually put all the plants in that you're putting in the pods, which is pretty neat. So you can set it all up there, and it's got your pods there. It also has your scheduling for your lighting, which you can put in different times depending on what you needed. The brightness, you can set it from a distance, from low to high. You can see it change in the background there, and beeps. And it's got a day track too, and so yeah, auto pump is on, 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off, and yeah, it's pretty cool. So we're going to just see how it goes, and I'll bring you along as things grow. Every few days when I do my videos, I'll update you as to what's happening with it. All right, so that's done. Yogurt's in. English muffins are made for the week. I'm gonna have to do dinner next. Never ending. But let's finish this up first, and then I might sit down for an hour and a half before I do that. I've got some chicken defrosted, so I'll probably do just like a green curry or something nice and simple for dinner. And then there'll be some leftovers. Now, in regards to everything else, the new job has its challenges. As I've said, that it's change. The new school year has started as well, and we're still getting into the flow of doing this distance ed stuff, figuring out where the kids fit in some of their curriculum and what we want to do. Like, they do Japanese as their language other than English, and for the 3 small boys that's fine because they came in early enough that they're, it's fine. But for, say, Sonnet, she has been doing Spanish up until this point and doesn't really want to do Japanese because they're already too far ahead. It's just too complicated. So we're going to pull her from Japanese and get her to do Spanish again. They do some music classes through the school, and again, because of the way we've taught English, it doesn't necessarily fit to the way that they're teaching it, and some of the constructs of it are a little bit beyond some of the kids because we just haven't covered that kind of stuff. So I think we're going to take that back over as well. We have an electric keyboard that was gifted to us by a viewer, like a plug-in electric keyboard thing. I'd love to upgrade it at some point, but for the moment it works perfectly fine. It has a headphone input and everything else, and I bought a stand for it from Amazon. I need to get a stool. I think that's on my Amazon list to buy next. There's one that I really want to buy that's on Amazon, which I will do eventually, but we'll get there. Apollo would really like an electric drum kit for his birthday this year, which is in June, so that will be another thing we'll add in there. And I think we'll use some apps and some online YouTube and things like that and just do it through that. I am musical myself. I play the flute and the sax and can play the keyboard and sing, and I can read music and all the rest of it. So I'm qualified to continue their theory practice, but maybe using something like the Simply Piano app, which has its pros and cons, using an app to learn things like piano. But one of the big pros is that it does like theme songs and current pop songs and things like that, which the kids find satisfying to accomplish those sorts of things, because it's something that they recognize instead of doing classical music, or one of Sonnet's teachers focuses a lot on country music, which she's really not fond of. And so because of the scope that they're teaching around, the kids are not getting engaged, which is where homeschooling always came in. We could pick the scope and the subject matter that appealed to the kids, which helped them to learn better, if that makes sense. So we're still figuring that out. The new job is going well. Taking over from someone else is always difficult. I do have a workshop / conference type thing that will be on the Wednesday before I go shopping next, and will run late probably because it's in windy. So I will probably go shopping Thursday instead. I'll do work Tuesday, Wednesday that week. I'll go shopping Thursday, probably come back Saturday and do Costco on that, which does mean though there's a Golden Cockerel chicken outlet that I only just found out about, and it's only open Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, which was none of those days was suitable previously. But because I'll be down there when I am, I'll probably go first thing Friday morning. I can always then I might take my vacuum sealer and stuff, the small Aldi one, and anything that's fresh I can vacuum seal up straight there at Mum's, throw in her chest freezer to freeze before I bring it home on Saturday. We are getting the half a beast that Sunday, Monday too, so I have to get the freezer sorted before then and then figure out how much space I've got too. So, that's all in the thought processes of everything else along with that. So tomorrow will be spent, the kids will go back to class tomorrow because they do classes Monday to Thursday, and tomorrow will be spent getting their week's worth of work all written up. I have full sheets I'll take some photos and I'll put them in here. I have full sheets for each child that shows exactly what they need to accomplish throughout the week to cover the work scope, the weekly work scope between the subjects that are compulsory. And then each child has their own pencil case and other things. So the 3 boys have these mesh bags. Again, I'll take some photos. Some mesh bags that are color-coded, that have their textbooks. So they have like a maths textbook and a handwriting and an English comprehension one. And they are in there, each one with some texters and their novel for the term, and then they have a pencil case with all their other stuff in it. And then I color coded their exercise books too, so the kids all have set colored exercise books, which makes it easier to see whose is what. So that has made some things simpler. Interrupted. I don't know where I was at. Sonnet needed some help cleaning some paintbrushes. I think I was talking about how the groceries, I'll come back on Saturday, chicken, mum's place, I don't know, half beast, freezers, I don't know. So I have all those freezer pods that I showed you earlier that I need to get sorted sometime over the next period as well, because I have just ended up taking fruit and cheese sticks for lunch a couple of days. If there's no leftovers from the night before, I just don't have a lot of food to take. But we'll figure that out. And it's only a 5 or 6 hour day, so it's not a big deal eating something when I get home, you know. It's just nice to have that bit of a break and a snack during that work day, because it's fairly full on brain work sort of thing. Other than that, I can't think of anything else. Everything else is just plodding along. We're getting there. It's still a lot of change, a lot of, you know, figuring things out, and it will be for a while yet. And in regards to YouTube, I want to try and continue with 3 videos a week if I can, but if I can't, I'm doing plenty that could be recorded. I just don't always have the energy or the time to record it or edit it, or, you know, life is getting in the way. But as I said to Darryl, earning this money from the new job is only beneficial if I can still maintain the income that I was already earning prior to this and have it as an additional income. Giving up what I was already earning and earning that is not going to benefit me in the long run. We do have a fair few D&D jobs that we've been doing too, and so the D&D jobs are Dungeons and Dragons, for those who have asked, are split. So I do a lot of data entry, formatting, all that sort of thing, and Darryl does the actual gameplay mechanics type stuff. So we have this schedule of, you know, this weekend I'm doing a Word doc that needs to be done for a book, so that it's all formatted appropriately, and then he can pull it in and do all the mechanicals for it while he's working on something else that's mechanical, you know, and then we cross over and do that sort of thing. So sometimes I have to get something done so that he's got the next step, and sometimes there's nothing I can do. And, you know, I've also had bits and pieces of transcription typing come in, but I get very minimal of it now. But I try and get that done every morning before I go to work if it comes in, and things like that. So, yeah. Oh, colour coding all the kids' stuff. I think that's where I was at, wasn't it? So all the kids' exercise books have vinyl book covers colour coded for the relevant children to make that easier as well. And yeah. Anyway, we had to get some new keyboards. We had to get some new headphones. One child needed a new monitor. All those sorts of things are sorted now. So everyone has everything they need for the year, and we will just keep on keeping on. So thank you for joining me again today. I will keep you updated with the LetPot. It looks very cool though. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks, guys.